I'm back. Did you miss me? It's okay. I told you I might be. So, yeah, earlier today I went live briefly responding to an article. Tonight I'm going to hopefully be finishing up this book, The Antidote, reading from The Antidote Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood by Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. Yeah, this is an interesting one. So it's been riveting so far. I'm gonna, read it, respond to it while reading it. For those watching in the chat, probably respond to them if they have any responses. We'll have a dialogue about the book and hopefully finish it up tonight. I don't know if we will, but we'll try. So yeah, this chapter is called Self-Destruction. Looks pretty interesting. Looks like he's going to talk about Tupac Shakur. We had a funny discussion. I was with my friend earlier today. We went out for happy hour, and the place we were at was showing old 90s music videos, and a Will Smith's Getting Jiggy With It video came on. And so we got talking about like Jada Pinkett, Smith, and all that mess. And she said something about like, well, wouldn't you, choose Tupac over Will Smith? And I was like, no way, never, as if could not be me. I'd go with Will 10 times over. So that was an interesting conversation. She's a big fan of his. She has a tattoo that's like Tupac, or related to him. It's his lyrics. So anyway, let's dig in. It'll be interesting to hear his analysis of his life. On the night of September 7th, 1995, Tupac Shakur attended a Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas in the company of Marion Suge Knight, the impresario of a successful music production company with the ominous name Death Row Records. It was an ominous name, I have to say. I've thought about that before. Be careful what you title things, what you name things, the words you use. They're more powerful than we realize, I think. Like Shakur, Tyson too was trying to bounce back from a prison stay. He too had sexually assaulted a young Black woman, in this case, the 18-year-old Desiree Washington, Miss Black, Rhode Island. The rape shocked almost no one who knew Tyson. His family life made Shakur's look like the Huxtables. His mother and father never married, which is why he ended up with his mother's name. His father abandoned the family when Tyson was 2, and his mother would spend the rest of her short life working bad jobs or on welfare. Like so many boys raised as he was, Tyson grew up angry at his father and with real mixed feelings about his mother. I would be with my friends and I'd see their mothers kiss them. I never had that, said Tyson later. You'd think that if she let me sleep in her bed until I was 15, she would have liked me, but she was drunk all the time. That sounds really weird, a 15-year-old boy sleeping with his mother. You know what? Mike Tyson's always weirded me out. There's always something kind of off about him. Tyson took to the streets of Brooklyn early. Small for his age and saddled with a lisp, he was called Fairy Boy by the neighborhood thugs who tormented him. Growing up as I did with a cleft palate, I knew something about teasing. But in Tyson's world, there was little discipline and no respect for the weak. It was Lord of the Flies, Brooklyn style. The youth ruled. When Tyson could take it no more, he fought back. It was then that he discovered his gift for fighting. By the time Tyson was 11, he was living on the streets and terrorizing the neighborhood, mugging, robbing, and beating people almost at will. I was a little kid looking for love and acceptance, and the streets were where I found it, he remembered. At 12, Tyson was arrested for possession of stolen property, which proved to be the best thing that ever happened to him. Sent upstate to a home for boys, he caught the eye of legendary boxing manager Cus D'Amato, who took Tyson under his wing and became the father Tyson never had. D'Amato was in his 70s then and not long for the world. He died when Tyson was just 19 and not at all ready to be a man. Tyson never did manage to overcome his insecurity or control his all-consuming rage. By the time he fought Bruce Seldon on that fateful night in 1996 and TKO'd him in the first round, Tyson had endured a disastrous, humiliating marriage, spent a few years in prison, and squandered his talents in almost as many ways as Tupac Shakur had. Suge Knight met Shakur after the Tyson fight. He was driving a black BMW 750, and Tupac rode in the passenger seat. When they stopped for a light, a white Cadillac with California plates pulled up alongside them. An unknown black man exited the Cadillac, gun drawn. As Shakur tried to scramble into the back seat, the black man fired 13 shots, 4 of them hitting Shakur. The fatal 2 shots in the chest. He would die 6 days later. Yeah, I do remember, like, he was in the hospital. It was a very alarming bit of news for my awareness of it, and like as I'm remembering, because he was so big, when I was a kid, like it was a big deal. I just remember it being on the news and being like reported on daily. For the media, star-studded murder of this magnitude was ripe for exploitation. The glitzy magazine Vanity Fair, for instance, celebrated Shakur's life and death in a lengthy article, "To Die Like a Gangsta." He could not have asked for a better send-off. His legacy was sealed. Hundreds of young black men, maybe thousands, would die trying to live up to it. One who died very quickly and likely in retaliation in this phony and pointless East Coast, West Coast gangster war went by the rap name the Notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie Smalls, aka Christopher Wallace. His story again fits the pattern of black self-destruction to a T. His father had deceived Wallace's Jamaican mother, Violetta Wallace, into thinking he was single. He wasn't. The hate just swelled and festered through my whole body, the letter wrote of Wallace's father. By the time Wallace was 2, his father had disappeared from his life altogether. I never wanted Christopher to disrespect or hate his father on my behalf, Valletta would write, but that is much easier said than done. To her credit, Valletta rejected the welfare mentality that she saw as a trap. She would work all her life to support her son, but that left little time to guide him. Like Shakur and West, Wallace was smarter and better educated than the average would-be rapper. This likely accounted for his success as a producer and performer. Like them too, he was angry and unfocused. He was selling drugs on the street by age 12. Hustlers were my heroes, he said. Everything happened on the strip I grew up in. It didn't matter where you went. It was all in your face. At 17, Wallace got busted for selling crack and would spend 9 months in a North Carolina prison before making bail. By this time, Wallace had dropped out of school and turned his attention to music. He also fathered a child out of wedlock, and as his career picked up, abandoned the baby's mother for Faith Evans, an R&B singer he married. Shortly after the wedding, Wallace released his first album. a semi-biographical bestseller titled Ready to Die. Again, ominous titles. Ready to Die. Wallace had some obvious mother issues still to work out. From the album's title cut came some heartwarming lyrics. My mother didn't give me what I want. What the F? Now I got a Glock making MFers duck. Wallace was 22 at the time. He had 3 more years to live. The 6'3", 400-pound Wallace titled the most popular song on that album, Big Papa. It speaks very clearly to the hateful, distrustful relationship so common among young Black men and women who have grown up never seeing a stable, loving relationship between a husband and a wife. In the song, Wallace described these young women as honeys getting money, playing N-words like dummies. As to the young men who hit like himself, money, hoes, and clothes, all an N-word nose. Wallace wasn't fantasizing about the life he wanted. He was talking about the life he lived. Wallace did not have much longer to live it. The East Coast-West Coast rap war heated up especially after Shakur survived his first shooting. He blamed it on Wallace and created the hit single Hit 'Em Up, which was little more than an extended death threat disguised as a rap record. Hit 'Em Up is so silly. Like, I've watched it like recently and it's just, oh man, it's silly. It was bad enough that Shakur threatened to kill Wallace in the song, but he began with the lyrics, I ain't no mother effing friends, that's why I effed your B word, you fat MFer. Just a generation ago, Sam Cooke was telling his girlfriend, I find myself wanting to marry you and take you home. And now here was Shakur taunting a hip-hop rival in no uncertain terms, claiming he'd had sex with his wife. Among the many things Shakur and Wallace had in common was the nature of their respective deaths. Each was riding in the passenger seat of a vehicle, Wallace a Chevy Suburban in Los Angeles, when another vehicle pulled up alongside. In each case, an unknown Black male reached over and opened fire. Wallace was a couple of months shy of his 25th birthday at the time. Shakur had just turned 25 at the time of his. As the culture so visibly collapsed around these young men, Black leadership did nothing but talk. Some of them talked a good game, Jesse Jackson among them. In 1997, not so long after the parallel murders, he told an interviewer on PBS that the lifestyle symbolized by Shakur and Wallace was not morally sound. He explained, when you begin to call yourself an N-word with an attitude, and call yourself notorious, and call yourself B-word and W-word, I'll leave that for you all to figure out. That's a level of demeaned degeneracy. That's a kind of surrender. I mean, Jackson does have a point about that, and that's again people speaking curses over themselves. Oh, hello, chat. The chat is pumping. We have Bobby Blanco in the house. Doofus, hello, Doofus. John Frederick, hello, John Frederick, and Stacy, welcome. Grab a seat, get a libation. We're reading from The Antidote by Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. Okay, so this was all well and good to say, but the way to fight back that Jackson suggested was not. He argued that the young should use their energy to demand laptop computers, equal funding for public education, access to Wall Street, and bizarrely, a budget for African development and Caribbean development. Almost as an aside, he added that young men who make babies should take the trouble of raising them. He never mentioned marriage. 2 years later, Jackson's mistress, Karen Stanford, gave birth very quietly to their daughter, Ashley. The story made the news 2 years after the birth. I am father to a daughter who was born outside of my marriage, Jackson said when the story broke. This is no time for evasions, denials, or alibis. I fully accept responsibility, and I'm truly sorry for my actions. We all make mistakes, me especially, but I made mine when I was 18. Jackson made his when he was an ordained reverend and in his 50s, posturing as the moral leader of Black America. Worse, he proved to be a deadbeat dad. Periodically over the years, tabloid readers would be treated to headlines like "Baby Mama Drama, Messy Jesse Jackson owes nearly $12K in child support for his outside kid." And this was the man the alchemists had appointed our leader, quote unquote. You just playing? What are you playing about? Yes, we love anyone. We love Biggie and Tupac. Dodge, what? Make families great again. Indeed. 19 is titled Sex War. That sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it? As Jesse Jackson's life shows, kids who grew up the way he did in a fatherless home have a very hard time creating a stable, loving home of their own. So many of them never learn to respect and appreciate women, including their mothers and other females of authority. The world got a look at this disrespect in action when Tupac Shakur went after C. Dolores Tucker. At the time of their confrontation, Tucker was pushing 60. A longtime civil rights activist, she had marched with Martin Luther King and went on to serve as Pennsylvania Secretary of State, the first Black woman to do so. Tucker had led many a crusade in her distinguished career, but only one that caused a backlash from other Black people. This was her campaign against what she called the quote-unquote pornographic filth of gangster rap, then in its heyday. Tucker made the case, which is hard to refute, that hip-hop music degrades Black women. I mean, that's obvious. Hello, Batman. Why are you all... Did somebody mention me? I'm seeing some interesting people showing up today, but hello, welcome. This bothered Tucker especially because she had been fighting to protect and promote the dignity of Black women throughout her career. As Shakur's mother, Afeni, wrote in her memoir, Black women were desperate for that kind of support. All I wanted was protection. That's all every woman wants, Afeni wrote. Unfortunately, neither her son nor his father was ever capable of providing it. All my life, I have had to be the man, Afeni added. Then what happens is I get in trouble for being the man. In 1994, Tucker took her fight to the NAACP and protested the organization's honoring of Tupac Shakur with an image award. Forget about the degraded music for a moment. By the time the NAACP gave Shakur this award, he had already been arrested several times for violent offenses, including once for sexual assault. Tucker, who sat on the NAACP board, was confounded that this venerable organization could give Shakur any kind of award at all. Shakur was not pleased. Women were not supposed to get in his way. He retaliated with a song called How You Want It, whose lyrics included the inflammatory line, Dolores Tucker, you MFer, instead of trying to help an N-word, you destroy your brother. Other prominent performers piled on, including The Game, Jay-Z, Lil Kim, and Eminem. Bereft the memorable line, tell that C. Dolores Tucker slut to suck a D-word. Oh my. Oh my. For all their phony blackness, the big shots of the hip-hop world gave the white Eminem a pass on this grotesque insult to a righteous Black woman. They saw in him a kindred soul, one who had distrusted women as much as they did. He was a big enough a star that even after the media started protesting violence against women, Eminem kept advocating violence and getting away with it. B-word, I'll punch Lana Del Rey right in the face twice, he rapped in a 2014 video, like Ray Rice in broad daylight. Leave Lana Del Rey alone. I love her. She's the mood, isn't she? His stardom gave Eminem all the perch he needed to take revenge on his parents. In the biographical song Cleaning Out My Closet, he makes his intentions clear. He trashes his quote-unquote faggot father for abandoning him as a baby. I wonder if he even kissed me goodbye, he asks. No, I don't. On a second thought, I just effing wished he would die. He expresses some regret for trashing his mother, but not much. I bet you're probably sick of me now, ain't you, Mama? I'ma make you look so ridiculous now. In fact, Eminem condemned his mother so often that he began the song My Mom with that line, my mom, I know you're probably tired of hearing about my mom. Yes, we are. His audience apparently couldn't get enough of his mother hatred. Many of them probably felt the same way. I know I should let bygones be bygones, he rapped. But she's the reason why I'm high, what I'm high on. Do you like my Eminem lyrics? Hello, stubborn one. What are you all dang, comments going too fast for me to keep up? Indeed, he did. Okay. For this self-loathing rapper to insult Dolores Tucker was just another day on the job. Tucker's enemies, however, went well beyond the world of hip-hop. In 1997, Tucker was instrumental in getting the U.S. Senate to hold hearings on the content of rap music. Democratic Senator Joe Lieberman singled out a few of the songs that he found troubling, like Slap a Hoe by the group Dove Shack, or the songs of a group called Cannibal Corpse, that extolled the joys of raping a woman with a knife or masturbating with a dead woman's head. Oh, jeez. That's sick. That's sick. More troubling still was that major companies like Sony and Polygram were distributing this music. Hillary Rosen, CEO of the Recording Industry of America, nicely captured the Alchemist response to the Senate hearing. Popular music, after all, has often become the vehicle for young people to express the ways they differ from their parents. Oh, you're different, all right. Rosen argued, refusing to see the difference between the Beatles' I Want to Hold Your Hand and the Dove Shack's F Ya Mouth. The Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. expressed his disappointment that the hearing seemed to be one-sided. He had wanted Black Columbia University professor Eric Dyson to testify. There was no balance at all in presenting an objective, scholarly, or dispassionate investigation of the issues at hand, said Dyson. That was not all Dyson said. He added that Tucker had a vicious and mean-spirited nature, and made the mistake of saying that within earshot of Tucker's husband, William Tucker. You're just a disgrace and an embarrassment to yourself, Tucker told Dyson. She has never called you a name or said a word about you. Unlike Afeni Shakur, Dolores had what every woman wanted, protection. It gave her the courage to carry on. Aw, her hubby defending her. That's nice. Happy White History Month, stubborn one. Happy White History Month, everybody. Really, Stacy, I didn't know that. Ugh. That's It's too much. It's too much for me. I can't. Why can't life be full of pleasant things, not horrific ones? I don't want to hear about such now. I don't want to know. I don't. It's nasty. I feel like I know too much now, and it's upsetting. Life is renewed through love, and real love is spiritual love, God's love passing through us. Rappers like Eminem, white or black, are not capable of writing love songs. All they can write and do write are hate songs. There is plenty of sex, but it is hateful, angry, exploitative sex. It has nothing to do with the kind of love the Apostle Paul talked about. Love your wives, he told the Ephesians, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word. In a strong, stable marriage, the children absorb the sanctified love between their mother and father and are nurtured by it. In the rap world, stable marriage is ridiculed, and the children it produces are mocked. The results are becoming obvious to anyone who wants to see. Interesting chapter. Let us continue. We're already at chapter 20, generational loss. In the video world, the term generational loss is used to describe what happens when you make copies of copies. Each subsequent generation loses something but adds nothing. Generational loss also describes what is happening to Black women in America's cities. With each generation, young mothers are less and less capable of passing along their daughters either useful skills or feminine virtues. This helps explain the increasingly prominent role of grandmothers or even great-grandmothers in Black life. For better or worse, YouTube. Hey, shout out to YouTube. Who's on YouTube right now? We're on YouTube right now. Good old YouTube. YouTube puts the results of this generational loss right in our faces. There on a daily basis, we can see that this absence of fathers and the failings of mothers have damaged young women as badly as they have young men. To verify this, just Google girl fights. As I was writing this, one particular fight proved to be so nasty it almost broke through the protective corridor the major media have constructed around the inner city. By shielding themselves from the realities of Black life, the media can pretend these problems don't exist. The problem for them is that they can no longer control what people see. Violent fight videos surface every day on social media sites. They don't always involve Black people, but they do much too often. Oh man. I remember this video he's describing, but the women were attacking a transsexual, from what I remember, at the McDonald's. Like he was in their bathroom. That's one thing about Black people. They're going to call it out. They're not going to like stand for that kind of thing. You know, they see something that ain't right, they're going to do something. It's not like white people being all quiet and polite about it and like just hoping it passes. Black girls will be like, get the fuck out of here, da, da, da. Pardon my language, but you know what I mean? Like, generally speaking, not to stereotype, not all, but this particular group. The incident in question took place inside a crowded Brooklyn McDonald's. All the participants and spectators were Black, as was the 15-year-old victim in the center of the brawl. A group of girls punched the victim in the head over and over. That was one of many disturbing things about the attack. Another was that the attackers, all teens themselves, were so vicious and relentless. Some of these girls are generations removed from knowing a solid, nurturing female role model. They don't know how a real woman behaves. Unable to attract males through their womanliness, they imitate them. Compounding the problem is that they are imitating boys who don't know how to be men, so they funnel their anger into coarse and violent behavior. This is the girls' desperate way of getting recognition and respect, but it gets them nowhere. Just as disturbing to me was that the spectators at McDonald's seemed to be enjoying themselves. Uneasy in their own skins, they lost themselves in the mob and delighted in the agony of others. I see this more and more. Misery loves company. If these poor souls cannot be happy, they don't want anyone to be happy. And that's so true. Miserable people cannot stand to be alone in their misery. They have to spread it. It's like stay away from people who are miserable. Like really, best advice. I have a whole video about it. Go watch it. I think it's titled "Stay Away from Miserable People." It's good. Okay. For me, most troubling of all was that for 90 seconds, a lifetime in such an attack, no male, boy, or man stepped forward to intervene. When a few males finally did get involved, they exhibited so little authority that the girls continued to stomp the now helpless victim for 90 more seconds. Oh my God. This is a symptom of a larger problem that few dare discuss. Due to man's separation from God, he lacks the strength to assume his rightful place as head of his wife, and she loses respect for his authority. And this is so true. This is so true. For example, men have lost the authority to keep their own child, as women make the choice, quote unquote, to kill their unborn children. When I was a boy, men, as fathers and producers, commanded respect. Today, so many boys grow up without a real man to look up to. They end up imitating their mothers with their piercings and tattoos and the attraction to bling. I know, I think I said this before, like when tattoos are being discussed, I said I don't like men with tattoos. I don't think it's right. I don't judge it too much. I have tattoos myself, so, but I do find it a bit feminine on a man. I'm not gonna lie. It's like one of those things. I'm like, why are you drawn on like a girl? Like, why are you decorated like a woman? There is something kind of odd about it. I do. No, it's not a black widow. It's just a spider. It's not a black widow though. I love my little spider. And it's nice too because sometimes spider enthusiasts will spot it and then come talk to me about spiders. I met a guy at like a church conference, talked about before, but he saw my tattoo and came over. He used to like keep spiders. Like he was telling me about all the different spiders he had and kept, and like it was cool. It was a cool conversation. It was fun to kind of talk. And then like one of the people that I was kind of talking to before then, he got kind of creeped out. It's interesting to see like who likes spiders or finds them fascinating and who's like put off by them. It's interesting. So I'm glad I have a nice polarizing tattoo that's usually visible. Not always, but mostly. Well, anyway, if they act tough, it is to convince themselves and their friends that they are not the mama's boys they know themselves to be. What men don't understand that it is the spirit of their mothers they must overcome to be a man. A real man at that McDonald's would not have waited 10 seconds before waiting in and pulling the girls apart. It wasn't fear that kept the male onlookers from doing this. The girls could not really hurt them, they knew that. It was a lack of confidence, a lack of self-respect, and a lack of natural authority. Thanks to the video, all the attackers were arrested. One was stopped with her mother. She attempted to flee to Jamaica. As is so often the case, the parents speaking on behalf of the victim and the accused were the mothers and the grandmothers. The fathers were nowhere to be seen. The alleged ringleader, 16-year-old Anaya Ferguson, was a mother herself, but obviously not a good one. She had been arrested 6 times since turning 16 8 months earlier. Those infractions included stabbing her brother, beating up her grandmother, and injuring a police officer during an arrest. There are too many Anayas out there with too many issues, many of them traceable to the absence of fathers in their lives and the failures of their mothers. As obvious as these problems are, no one of importance in the media or in the civil rights community wants to talk about them. Lucky for our civil rights quote-unquote leaders, the Oklahoma frat boy video surfaced at the same time as the Brooklyn video. Personally, I found the video funny, very stupid but funny, worthy of a slap on the wrist maybe, but not expulsion from school. I thought to myself, don't these white people know what's going to happen to them? They apparently had no idea the mess they were singing their way into. Their video allowed the media to divert national media's attention from a large and growing problem to an anomalous, irrelevant one. Students held candlelight vigils about the Oklahoma incident. Editorialists blustered. One national bigwig after another weighed in. Almost to a person, however, the national power players kept mum about the Brooklyn incident. Yes, there was a good deal of media attention in the New York area, and activists did respond, but they scarcely knew where to begin. Community advocate Tony Herbert told local ABC News that parents and other interested parties all over New York City and even Long Island were meeting to address the problem. We're going to come together and we're going to get ahead of this curve and stop this violence, said Herbert. We know there's a lack of programming, lack of funding, resources that these young people can plug into. As if they were beating this, as if they were like beating anyone up because of a lack of resources. You don't like attack people like that due to a lack of resources. Hello, Rome, pretty lady or party lady. Nice to see you here. And Modern Gentleman is here. Hi, Modern Gentleman. Watching from the camper at the campground. Finally got her all done and on our maiden voyage. Well, that sounds lovely. A nice little camping trip for you and yours. And you're still able to enjoy me on your trip, so that's even better. What a great time to be alive. Okay. Herbert added, what do? We engage those young people to have that access. As much as I respect Herbert's good heart, he is saying the same things that the community activists said 50 years ago. But the problem is not local, and it is not a lack of funding. The problem is a lack of fathers and mothers passing their anger onto the children. No amount of programming will change that. In the comment sections on the McDonald's video, ordinary Black people were making the kind of observations that Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton should have been making if they really cared about the people they are supposed to represent. The first one came from Honeybee31, a Black woman raising a teenage daughter. Oh, we're getting into the YouTube comments. How interesting. He published a book with YouTube comments in it. You never know where your YouTube comments may end up, okay? So be sure to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe. This saddens, scares, and bothers me at the same time. So the only time Blacks want to march and scream foul play is when someone outside of their race commits an offense to them. What about the love and regard for your fellow man? What are we teaching these kids? That it's okay so long as you're doing it to each other, so long as the authorities aren't violating your human rights? Let's revert back to times when war raged openly in the streets. Wake up. No one is going to respect us more than we respect ourselves. It starts with home. This second comes from Dennis D-Man R., a male high school student who makes more sense on racial issues than his president. Hi, Frederick. Frederick's here now, too. We're having a nice, lively chat tonight. I hope y'all are doing well. Hope everybody's having a lovely day, enjoying this lovely summer weather we're having. When has it ever been okay for 7 females to attack one female in such an animalistic way? People standing by and recording instead of stopping and getting involved to stop the fight. We are in the state of mindless, ignorant behavior with a dash of denial. These youths are supposed to be our future. All I see is the past. They call each other N-words, advocating not to snitch when they witness wrongdoing. And I think it's okay to and think it is okay to beat down one of their own like a lynch mob. I am so ashamed. I can't post anymore. All I have to say, 400 years, 400 tears. I guess the white man made you attack this young sister too. SMDH makes me want to vomit. I hope so too, Fred. Write your book. Write your book. Maybe I'll read it on air one day. Both of these respondents suggest the obvious, namely that the powers that prefer to be, or I'm sorry, I keep switching things around. Let me adjust my sitting and have another sip of water. I suppose it has been a long day. Maybe my mind isn't working at full capacity. Okay, let's try that again. Both of these respondents suggest the obvious, namely that the powers that prefer to blame white people for black problems rather than address those problems themselves. Although many of those who commented on social media sites had little to say worth repeating, one other theme did surface that deserves attention. I can say that now I know why there are more black men who prefer to get into serious relationships with white women, said a self-identified Southern white female. Sorry, it's been a long day. I got up early too. Like my alarm went off and I didn't. Usually I'll just go back to sleep on a Saturday, but today I didn't. I got up early, made coffee, fed the cat, got dressed. So yeah, it's been a busy day. It's been going a while, but I thought, you know what, try and get on here, read the antidote, see how far you get. You might finish it, and then you might, be able to start on something else soon. So yeah, we'll see. A woman is not designed to be like this. They are supposed to be feminine, loving, and nurturing to their families and everyone around them. Indeed. Growing up in the South, I had the same impression about women. They could be tough. My grandmother certainly was. But they were big-hearted enough to nurture a neighborhood. Men respond to that kind of woman. These are the women they want to marry, not the animalistic women who pride themselves on their fighting skills. This generation is horrible, commented one young black woman. The problem is babies, 13 to 17 years of age, are having babies too. She is much closer to the truth than the people on TV who are telling her what to think. These young women grow up angry and stressed out, and they transfer that anger to their children long before they learn how to understand it themselves, let alone cope with it. In Alabama, I never saw anything like what I saw in that Brooklyn video. In fact, I never saw anything like that in Gary or even Los Angeles, at least not when I first arrived. Without fathers in the home, these young women often suffer from a spiritual breakdown. They grow up hard and cynical, and they are getting harder and more cynical by the generation. They have sex to offer but little else. Men use them but don't want them. Some men turn to white women as an alternative, but these relations can be ripe with problems as well. Too often, the white women form relations with black men out of a false sense of compassion and an unthinking sense of superiority. They see themselves not as the equals of the men, but as their saviors. If the woman is the major breadwinner in the family, The man will have a hard time establishing his sense of self-worth and independence. I have seen many such relationships built on guilt and exploitation. Yuck. Hello, Dijon Pa. I know, twice in one day. What are you going to do? I mean, hopefully enjoy and appreciate my company. There is another related problem to deal with. New York writer Ernest Baker put his finger on it in a recent article he wrote for Gawker about being seen with his white girlfriend. It's nothing to walk past a random black woman on the street and get a death glare, wrote Baker, and maybe even overhear something like, "They're taking all of our men." One black woman walked right up to him and his girlfriend and asked point blank why he was dating a white girl when she could not even get a man. "I totally get where black women are coming from," said a sympathetic Baker. Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, but I am dating a white woman. Black women see the problem from another angle. Black men don't like black women. Yes, I said it, wrote television journalist Courtney Carter. I don't mean all black men, but it's true of many, and it's a growing problem. In a thoughtful Huffington Post article, Carter, an educated black woman, tried to explain why this is so, but she gave short shrift to the one explanation that is closest to the truth. Black women have too much attitude / ghetto. Carter explained that she and many of her friends grew up in middle-class homes, and she said very clearly, "I am not ghetto," but she still does not see herself getting the respect she deserves. What Carter did not say is, "I don't have an attitude." Even affluent young black women can be angry and defiant. Unless they were surrounded by love as young girls, they too can develop an attitude from all the negative things they have been bombarded with at home, in school, and in college, and from the media. In my experience, many well-educated black women are overly sensitive to the least slight from anyone, male or female, black or white. They have been taught from an early age that the system works against them, both for being black and for being female, and they are looking for proof that this is so. In a 2015 Playboy magazine interview, I remember this. I mean, I didn't read the article, but I remember Azalea Banks being on the cover of Playboy. She was so happy. Rapper Azalea Banks showed just how thoroughly the alchemists have managed to poison the minds of black women. Certainly this particular young black woman. "I hate everything about this country," she told Playboy. "Like I hate fat white Americans, all the people who are crunched into the middle of America. The real fat and meat of America are these racist, conservative white people who live on their farms." Oh, she was 23. At the time of the interview, Banks was 23 and precociously hateful. She traced her anger to an education that forced her to learn the following. The white man gave you the vote. He Christianized you and taught you how to speak English. If it weren't for him, you'd still be living in a hut. Banks went to school in New York City in the 21st century. I cannot imagine any teacher in liberal New York ever saying anything good about the white contribution to black culture. Then again, at least in retrospect, Banks hated her teachers enough to lie about them. She claimed to have written in her second grade journal, "I cannot stand this white B-word teacher, F this white B-word." The teacher reportedly called Banks's mother about this entry. The mother was a bit embarrassed because she was the one telling her daughter, "White people are of the devil, stay away from them." It will not surprise you to learn that Banks grew up without a father. He died when she was 2. Her mother was physically and verbally abusive. Like she would hit me and my sisters with baseball bats. Oh, I didn't know Azalea went through that. Poor Azalea. She's cute. I love her. I don't know. She's something else. She's a wild card. She's a crazy girl. Like you never know what she's gonna say. And like she's she says a lot of crazy things, but every now and then she'll say something very true in it or something very relatable in it. I don't know. There's some I just, I don't know, something about her. That's an interesting insight, Dijon Pa. Okay, he says attitude from a black woman can be fun. Yeah, and not a black woman too. Sometimes I have an attitude. But what is the attitude about? I mean, I think somebody who has a negative attitude all the time. Like what kind of attitude as well? Like somebody can't be like angry all the time. That's draining. Very draining to be around somebody who's angry all the time and always looking to have a fight and never is at peace. But anyway, I don't know. Bang our heads up against walls, and she would always tell me I was ugly. Oh, she's not ugly. Azalea Banks is not ugly. She's a beautiful woman. By age 14, Banks had left home to live with her sister. Somewhere along the way, Banks learned to transfer her rage to the white man, and why not? It was the white man who deprived her of an African homeland. When you rip a people from their land, from their customs, from their culture, there's still a piece of me that knows I'm not supposed to be speaking English. I'm not supposed to be worshiping Jesus Christ. All this S word is unnatural to me. I suspect that posing nude in Playboy is not something that would go over well in her imagined native country, whether Christian or Muslim, but Banks was not thinking here. She was reacting to a lifetime of propaganda. Much of it is poisonous. I think, from what I understand, she follows like Yoruba or something. She like venerates the 7 African powers, the Orishas. I've seen her working with the Orishas. Just I don't know if I follow her anymore, but I've seen her like Brad says mildly attractive. No, she's kind of I don't know. I like her teeth. Like she's got facial symmetry. She's got very bright, pretty big eyes. Like she has unique features. I would say Azalea Banks, as I'm picturing her in my mind. I think you could like look at her and like dissect any, but you can do that with any beautiful woman. But I think like altogether, she's a woman I would say is very very attractive, very pretty as well. Like unique. But anyway, as I remember like my favorite bit of controversy, just as an aside with Azalea Banks, was when she was sacrificing those chickens and she showed her like bloody chicken closet where she goes to kill the chickens for the like Orishas. Man. People did not know what to do with that. Like I was laughing though. I was like, oh man. What is this? What is my hair doing? I have some of it pinned up. Some of it's pinned up. Some of it's down. Some of it's pinned up in the back. And then I put some barrettes here. Do you like it? I mean, isn't it nice looking? It's a little bit messy, I suppose. But it's nice. No, he says, hell no. He doesn't like it. Yeah, Rome likes it. Rome knows. Rome knows my hair looks cute. Whatever her physical appeal, Banks is almost unrecognizable as a woman. She prides herself on her hardness, her vulgarity, her bisexuality, and her rampant materialism. In telling Playboy why she prefers older men, she proves how little appeal the ordinary black man would hold for her or she for him. The things in an older man's house are better, his furniture, even his knives and his pots, and they smell better, she said, as if her fixation on material things was admirable. I mean, it's not untrue. It's not untrue. Yeah, it's not untrue. Not all older men, but I'm saying like what she's saying isn't untrue. Um, Banks may posture as a loud black B word, but for all her pride in blackness, she has thoroughly estranged herself from the warm, nurturing women of her American and African past. Far from being the opposite of an affluent white American, she has become a parody of one. She is not even close to the unique creation she imagines herself to be. Rather, she is a textbook case of why black men and black women are at war. Too many young black women today grow up like Banks, in homes where anger is the norm and trust is unheard of. Given this kind of start, they focus on superficial things like hair and skin color and even furniture and ignore the things that matter, like forgiveness, redemption, and love. A generous, unforced smile can make anyone beautiful, but only love can produce those smiles, and only security can produce love. Fred, stop! Well, I mean, does JLP overgeneralize? Yes. But he says too many. I mean, one is too many, isn't it? And I mean, it's not untrue. Like he's not saying things that I don't think we all haven't noticed. It's not all black people, obviously, but there are, especially, yeah, especially, I don't know. But again, I have love for Azalea Banks. I think she's something. She's a unique individual. Um, and I hope she overcomes her hell. She would be amazing on the Fallen's date, wouldn't she? Okay, so we're at chapter 21. It's titled Race War. Are y'all excited? Race War. Doesn't that sound exciting? Let me get myself adjusted. The antidote: healing America from the poison of hate, blame, and victimhood. Get my hair behind me here. Flip my hair. I don't need your comments about my hair. My hair is my hair. What side am I on? I'm not doing it. I'm on the like preventing any sort of race war side because that's ridiculous. Yeah. I'm not for war. I'm a pacifist in this regard. I mean, it does amaze me. I don't like when people talk like that or speak like that. We're all Americans and we all belong here and we all have a stake in this country. And I think it's just sad. I think it's sad where we should be able to overcome like whatever petty differences we have and work together to have some kind of harmony. I don't think it's impossible. I mean, maybe we need to be honest with one another about the problems that we see. But I don't know, it's not I'm not for that. But anyway, I'm on the side of I don't know. I'm on the side of running away from it and living to fight another day because I'm just not. I don't have any more war in me, you know. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either, Frederick. It's ridiculous to think it will. There may be like, well, anyway, there may be times when people act out or do things but I think the majority of people, when it comes down to it, just want to live peaceful, quiet lives, you know. Well, anyway, more than any time in the past 40 years, I fear for the future. President Obama, Black political leaders, white agitators, and the media all seem intent on fomenting racial unrest. They have focused on incident after incident: the Capitol Hill protest, the Trayvon Martin shooting, the Michael Brown shooting, the Eric Garner death, the Tony Robinson shooting, the Freddie Gray death. Lied to America about what happened, stirred up Black anger with their lies, and then exploiting the anger for ratings, cash, or ballots. It took former Obama supporter George Zimmerman to point out what the media should have pointed out years before. 3 years after the Martin shooting and days after being cleared by the Department of Justice, Zimmerman said that Obama's involvement in his case was clearly a dereliction of duty, pitting Americans against each other solely based on race. Exactly. And Zimmerman's was not the only case that Obama nosed his way into. I have got to believe this agitation has been planned. People who think the way Obama does always want power, and what better way to gain more of it than by using disorder as a cover? I mean, that's not untrue, by fomenting polarization of the population, people are able to manipulate that kind of polarity for their own devices, which is why as individuals we have to work really hard to not allow ourselves to be swayed by the polarization. You really do have to depolarize yourself. You need to stop identifying so strongly with things that are, material. And that's right, Rome. I'm above it. I'm above it. Don't pull me in. Don't pull me into your nonsense war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. Okay, so let's go on. The Alchemist plot, I think, under a false premise. They believe that they still control the media. They think that the editorial voice of the New York Times is America's voice. They are confident that whites will respond as passively and as guiltily to a Black uprising as the Times readers would. I don't think they will, and there is one very obvious reason why. Although the national media will not show the Brooklyn McDonald's video or the hundreds of other videos of young Black people behaving badly, white people in the millions are watching those videos. Many show whites being attacked for no other reason than they are white. Closed from legitimate channels of debate on racial matters, white people are going underground with their discontent, and the responses are not always what we might want them to be. A week or so after the Brooklyn McDonald's video, a video of out of Indianapolis surfaced. As the Indianapolis Star reported the incident, a video of a young girl and her little brother being beat down by a female assailant surfaced early Sunday morning on the website liveleak.com. The incident follows an all too familiar pattern. The reader learns that the 14-year-old attacker throws the first punch. In fact, it was a sucker punch. This was not a fight, it was an attack. She knocks the victim down with a punch and continues to beat and kick her in the face. Oh my God. Several individuals watch the attack, but of course, no one attempts to step in and break up the suspect's onslaught. The victim does not even know the name of her attacker. As the beatings continue, she cries out, "What did I do? What did I do? What did I know? What did I do? Please stop." The victim finally manages to wrangle away and runs off with her 5-year-old brother, but her attacker comes charging after her, tackles her, and begins slugging and stomping the victim in the face. When the little brother, bless his heart, steps in and swings at the attacker, she grabs him by his neck and flings him to the concrete sidewalk. At this point, the attacker backs off with the onlookers still laughing. Laughing? She was subsequently arrested on another charge, the brass-knuckle beating of a second teen later that day. Race, of course, unknown. The Star article concluded on this note: by 8 p.m. Sunday, the video had been viewed more than 1 million times. To be clear, that is more than 1 million views in the first 12 hours. Those who saw the video know a few things. Star readers did not. The most obvious was that the attacker was black and the victim and her brother were white. The onlookers were black as well. So was the gleeful, cackling girl who shot the video and narrated it. To be fair, the Star was not the only media outlet to censor the obvious. Consider this absurd description of the attack from TV station Fox 59. In the video, a girl wearing black is pulled to the ground by a girl wearing white. That was helpful. Otherwise, what? Viewers would not have been able to tell them apart. Viewers, however, are not as clueless as the media execs think they are. If a white person did this to a black child, said one fellow on LiveLeak, Obama would scramble the National Guard and CNN would headline it for the next 3 months. He was likely not far away from the truth. That the Star did not report so obvious a fact as the race of those involved had to disgust readers who also viewed the video. How could they take that paper seriously after so glaring and so typical an omission? By denying that basic fact, the Star let its readers know there would be no public discussion of the problem at hand, and if there was, it would deal with teen violence. The comment section on LiveLeak reveals the increasing anger among white people. I'm so angry after watching that. That dirty effing B word needs to be hung from the nearest tree, reads one comment. If that isn't a hate crime and a felony, then what is, reads a second, and a third. I really hope someone hangs that F word from a tree one night. Swap the races, and that would be a national news story, and they'd be screaming for the death penalty. There are two major takeaways from those comments. One is that white people don't buy the media spin anymore. They know that there is a glaring double standard in the way crime is being reported and even prosecuted. The second is that many are willing to express their anger in racially taboo terms. Although understandable, that is not healthy. As I know from my own life, anger is not something you control. It controls you. Amen. Say it again. Amen. Say it again. Anger is not something you control. It is something that controls you. When we let anger control our souls, we all lose. In the follow-up articles on the attack, we see all the symptoms of community collapse that I have been talking about for the last 25 years. The most obvious is that the spokesperson for the attacker's family is their grandmother. There is no father or grandfather in sight. I was thinking my granddaughter went over the edge. That's how I felt. The grandmother told the local media. She visited her granddaughter in detention and recounted the conversation. Grandma, I black out when this happens. I just black out. No doubt this girl has as many health... Excuse me. Let me take a sip of water, actually. Hello, Dustin Nunn. No doubt this girl has as many mental health problems as she has excuses. The mother and grandmother traced her path through various government agencies, all to no avail. The media refused to see, however, that this girl was more the norm than the exception in the community that produced her. The proof is that her friends cheered on this gratuitous attack. Scarier still, they were cheering because the victim was white. There was no other reason for the attack. All the other people watching and laughing are just as guilty, wrote one Asian woman commenting on LiveLeak. Watching the video gave her flashbacks as an Asian girl in an otherwise black and white neighborhood. It was inevitably the black girls who bullied her. I mean, you know what? And now I'm thinking about it. They did be bullying sometimes in school. They were like savage. They really were. Like they would call you something and it would like just be like so devastating. It would be like one word they'd call you and it would just be like the end of your life. I'm trying to think. Like I remember they called me crunchy once. I don't remember that, but I felt like so there were a couple girls in my like class. They were like laughing at me and calling me crunchy, and I was like, I don't like that. What does it mean? I was also left like thinking, what does it mean that I'm crunchy? It didn't sound good. Hi Yoda. Okay. For years, non-blacks have had to stifle their complaints. Social media has given them voice. They may not express themselves charitably, but those who ignore that anger will pay for their ignorance. If white anger is well concealed, black anger is not. The nightly news almost every night shows some manifestation of it. A march here, a mob action there, a riot somewhere else. Some talking head will be trotted out to explain why the anger is justified and what white America must do to atone. When asked, for instance, whether the police should crack down on mobs of black teens raising hell on the famed County Club Plaza in his native Kansas City, Black Caucus Chair Emmanuel Cleaver said for the ages, all we are going to do is make a lot of black kids angry and they are going to take out their anger somewhere else. As to why those kids are angry, alchemists like Cleaver don't even bother with an explanation. You saw Roots, didn't you? Roots. He's your daddy. Oh man, sorry. I loved Roots. It was wild. To understand how lethal this anger can be, it might pay to look at the phenomenon of the black mass murderer. You say, what? Black mass murderer? If you are like a lot of people, you think mass murder is a white thing. The media encourage you to do so. Why most mass murderers are privileged white men. No, he's bringing up Hugo Schweitzer in Jezebel in 2012. I got into it with him bad. He threatened to sue me because I said that I had read his blog. He would be telling on himself. Now, this guy was an organizer of the Slut Walk in LA. He worked at like one of the community colleges down there. He was a quote unquote feminist and he was a mess. He had the messiest blog where he just told on himself. And he told this story about how he like tried to kill his girlfriend. And like, you know, he like wrote these stories about like times where he was like messy about consent with women and like how he like had sex with his students and like just, well, anyway, like me and some women on Twitter were discussing it and he like came for us. I still have like, it came up recently on Facebook, but like one of my friends posted like a screenshot on Facebook years ago where she was like, lol, ready for the lol suit, brah. And she like tagged me in it. And he's like, at me, at doll snatch, and then at Megan Murphy. And it was like, anyone that calls me a rapist will get sued for libel. Check your ISP. Anyway, good times on the internet. Hi, S.A. Brady. Anyway, let's continue. Man, Hugo, that guy, even today, I've been wondering about him. Like, what's he up to? He was a mess back then. I can only imagine him now. I can't deal, like, these male feminists. They are the worst. They really are the worst of the worst. They're the creepiest. Ugh. Anyway. This is a riff you hear occasionally from Black comics as well. But the perception results from the way media treat Black serial killers, not from the reality on the ground. And all the untold story is how Black anger has been finding an outlet in unhinged acts of violence. Inevitably, these killers blame white people for their rage. True to form, the media refuse to examine the deeper reasons for their rage, if they bother to discuss these crimes at all. For instance, in March 2015, JCX Simon, 69, died an obscure death in a California prison cell. 30 years earlier, he and 3 other zebra killers went on an openly racist killing spree that resulted in the shooting of at least 21 whites and Asians in San Francisco, 14 of whom died. God, how terrible. Not one American in 1,000 could tell you word one about the zebra murders, let alone about JCX Simon. The Zodiac Killer, by contrast, worked to the same area at roughly the same time, killed far fewer people, and drew hugely more media attention, including a feature film. Yeah, that's interesting. I've not really heard anything about these zebra murders. What do you mean? They've always been on Twitter. What are you talking about? It's interesting now. They always been there. Okay. The media's natural impulse is to bury stories of Black on white crime, even those with multiple victims. This the national media did successfully in December 2000 after brothers Reginald and Jonathan Carr raped, sexually humiliated, and shot 5 decent young men and women, killing 4. Days earlier, the brothers had shot and killed another white woman. Despite the heinous nature of the crimes, the story of the Wichita Massacre barely left Wichita. The Kansas City media would not even talk about it. This was too bad, for no other reason than to show once again how paternal abandonment and abuse can fill the children left behind with murderous rage. The brothers' upbringing was textbook family breakdown. Their targeting of white victims was hardly random. The media's indifference was not random either. To get the attention of the media, Black mass murderers must do something perverse, public, and undeniable. Jamaican-born Colin Ferguson did just that in December 1993, when he walked down the aisle of the Long Island Railroad car, shooting 25 people, none of them Black, killing 6 of them. After 3 brave passengers tackled him, the police found a note in his pocket under the heading, "Reasons for this." He cited racism by Caucasians and Uncle Tom Negroes. Throughout his troubled life, in fact, Ferguson had been accusing people of racism. He left Jamaica after his parents died and never found his stride. His relentless anger had cost him one job after another, and he inevitably lashed out at his employers. In 1993, however, even the New York Times wasn't buying his rationale. While Mr. Ferguson blamed racism for all his misfortunes and shattered expectations, wrote the Times' Robert McFadden, the examination of his past shows no evidence that he was ever a victim of discrimination. That lack of evidence did not trouble Ferguson's radical attorneys, Ronald Kuby and William Kunstler. William Kunstler! I know about that guy. They saw an opportunity to exploit white guilt and seized it, introducing a black rage defense to save their client. Nobody is saying Colin Ferguson did a good thing, said Kuby. But we're just saying that he was not responsible for his own conduct. White racism is to blame. The judge and jury did not see it that way. Yeah, thank God. Ferguson was convicted and sent away for life. But the attorneys managed to shift the public debate away from Ferguson's guilt or innocence to society's. The shift did black people no good. The next black mass murderer to show his head was arguably the most terrifying in recent American history. Born John Allen Williams in Louisiana, this killer went by the name John Allen Muhammad after joining the Nation of Islam in 1987. He would carry that name forward until the state of Virginia quietly executed him in 2009. Muhammad's childhood is another textbook study of the effects of parental abandonment. Sari Horowitz and Michael Ruin, authors of Sniper, The Hunt for the Killers Who Terrorized the Nation, chronicled his early years in a chapter aptly titled The Roots of Rage. Those roots ran deep. Muhammad's father, a railroad porter, was scarcely around during the first few years of his son's life. Upon the death of his wife, when Muhammad was 3, he split altogether. From that point on, his aunts raised him. Like so many young men in similar straits, Muhammad proved to be a better father than his father was to him. He had one child out of wedlock, a second child with his first wife, Carol, and a third child with his second wife, Mildred. During much of that time, he served either in the Army Reserves or in the regular army. Excuse me. Good God, Yoda. Yoda. My God. Oh. Okay. A year after being discharged in 1994, honorably but with few racially charged incidents along the way, he helped the Nation of Islam provide security for the Million Man March, an event attended by Barack Obama, among other luminaries. Now, on his own, Muhammad tried his hand at entrepreneurship, but without success. Removed from the enforced discipline of the military, he quickly ran his car repair business into the ground and blamed everyone but himself, especially Mildred. After their divorce, she had to file a protection order against him. "You have become my enemy, and as my enemy, I will kill you," he told her. In 2000, Muhammad abducted his 3 children and flew to Antigua. There he supported himself, but just barely, with a variety of shadowy hustles. He spent about a year on the island. Before he left, though, he met a Jamaican woman and her fatherless teenage son, Lee Malvo. He took the needy Malvo under his wing and soon had him spouting verses from the Quran. Even before they headed back to the United States, Malvo was calling Muhammad Dad. A little over a year after returning to the United States, the heavily armed Muhammad was cruising the Washington, D.C. area in a Chevy Caprice with Malvo, now 17 and fully submissive. At his side, unwilling to face his own failures as a son, father, and man, Muhammad transferred his wrath toward America. He would rage about its slavery, hypocrisy, and foreign policy. Malvo claimed at Muhammad's trial in 2006, according to Malvo, Muhammad planned to terrorize the area by killing 6 whites a day for 30 days. He was particularly keen on shooting pregnant white women. Muhammad did not get the body count he'd hoped, but for the month of October 2002, he did succeed in paralyzing metropolitan D.C. Before the month was through, he and Malvo had shot 13 random people, killing 10 of them. Authorities would trace 12 shootings earlier in 2002 to the pair. 7 of the victims died. For all the havoc he wreaked, Muhammad failed to secure the attention he craved. Prediction: Muhammad's trial will make him as famous as McVeigh. All America will know his name, columnist Pat Buchanan wrote shortly after their arrest. Buchanan did not understand the media as well as he thought. Up until the moment Muhammad and Malvo were apprehended, the media had been openly speculating, hoping really, that the killers were white. When they proved to be black, with Muslim ties to boot, the media gave them as little attention as possible given the massive coverage they generated before their capture. The same media that had chronicled the pending execution of Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh day by day in 2001, all but ignored the execution of John Allen Muhammad in 2009. The Alchemist could pull no useful spin from this death. The motive for the attacks remains murky, wrote Dina Parter of the Associated Press. Neither Potter nor anyone else in the media traced his motive to an irrational anger born out of abandonment and fueled by the alchemists, who reassured him that nothing was his fault. True to form, Muhammad protested his innocence to the end. It was not until after Barack Obama was elected president that the pace of the killing picked up. This seemed ironic only to those who did not understand Obama's agenda. On August 3, 2010, 34-year-old Omar Thornton headed to the family-owned Connecticut beer distributorship where he had worked for the last 2 years. He had cause to be anxious. Management had caught him on video stealing beer on more than one occasion. After a disciplinary hearing, Thornton handed in his resignation to avoid being terminated. Instead of leaving the building, however, he pulled 2 Ruger SR9 pistols from his lunchbox and started firing. After shooting 10 of his coworkers, killing 8 of them, he called 911. "You probably want to know why I shot this place up," said Thornton. "This place here is a racist place." Thornton made no bones about his motives. "They treat me bad over here," he continued, "and they treat all the other black employees bad over here too. So I just take it into my own hands and I handle the problem. I wish I could have got more of the people." How awful. Thornton had the mama syndrome bad. Like O.J. Simpson after his murders, he made one personal call. It was to his mother, Lily Holiday. "I killed the 5 racists that was there bothering me," he told her. She took his claims of racism at face value. Among other insults he had allegedly experienced, Thornton claimed to have seen drawings on the wall of President Obama with his head in a noose. Holiday was unable to talk to her son of what he planned to do next, shoot and kill himself. Despite the media's initial efforts, the racism angle did not play as well as Thornton and Holiday might have hoped. Every agency that examined the company's HR practices gave it a clean bill of health. Thornton had made no prior complaint to either management or the union about racial harassment. None of the other black employees had experienced any racism, and there was no doubt that the company had him dead to rights for stealing beer, a capital offense in a beer distributorship. With the racism well quickly running dry, the media collectively decided to bury the story. They much preferred the various narratives that white serial killers presented. Union officials wanted the story to die too. Said Teamster honcho Christopher Ruse, "It's got nothing to do with race. This is a disgruntled employee who shot a bunch of people." Of course it had everything to do with race, just not in the way the media hoped it would. Holiday and other Thornton supporters kept the racial fire simmering throughout the OST, Omar Sheriff Thornton Memorial Foundation. On the surface, the foundation is dedicated to raising awareness of and combating institutional racism in all its forms. To reinforce that theme, one prominent visual contains images of the legends that inspired the foundation: Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Back to Africa guru Marcus Garvey. Another visual shows lynched black men hanging from trees. Race is obviously the prominent theme, but a closer look at the foundation shows it to be a tribute to an unhealthy relationship between a mother and her son. The foundation's updated cover image, for instance, has a photo of Thornton in the center, my angel, my everything, surrounded by what appears to be 4 photos of Holiday. There is no mention of Thornton's father in the foundation literature or in any of the media accounts. The fact that Thornton and his mother have different last names suggests the father had not been in the picture, literally or otherwise, for a long time. The fact that Thornton formed no family of his own suggests the lack of reliable role model in his life. If the media spent 1/10 the time on this Connecticut shooting as they did on the Sandy Hook shooting 2 years later, they might have helped their audiences understand what went wrong in the life of Omar Thornton. He was not the victim of racism, institutional or otherwise. If he was the victim of anything, it was of a disordered home life and society's refusal to acknowledge the emotional fallout from that disorder. The pattern stares the media in the face. Angry black man displaces his anger from his parents to the white man, but the media either avert their gaze or blame the white man. It is so much easier than telling the truth. The media had another opportunity to avert their gaze just a few years later. In 2013, in Los Angeles, Christopher Dorner declared unconventional and asymmetric, warfare on the Los Angeles Police Department. Before he took his own life, Dorner killed 4 people and wounded 3 others. 6 of the 7 were police officers. Only 1 was black. Born in 1979, Dorner grew up in a largely white California neighborhoods and graduated from college. Despite his good fortune, he was an angry young man who funneled his anger, as the media encouraged him to, into racial grievances. In a manifesto of sorts that he wrote before his lethal rampage, he documented the racial insults he had endured or imagined all the way back to the 1st grade and right up through his time on the LAPD. He also made frequent reference to his mother, who was biracial, but none to his father. In fact, I could find no reference at all to Dorner's father in any of the media accounts. That said, he congratulated several of his friends for being a great father. He seems to have recognized what he missed in his own life. Whew, y'all, you know what? I'm feeling kind of, let me take a little break here, get my fan. I don't want to turn the AC back on, but yeah, it was a warm one today. I went out with my friend and we had dinner. We had a nice dinner. It was good. And it wasn't so bad out, but we were in the shade and there was a little bit of a breeze. So even though it's in the 90s, it wasn't like, I was wearing this sweater all day. I never took it off. Maybe I should take it off now, but I only have a tank top on under it. And I don't know if I don't know. Maybe I could, yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not like y'all are going to see anything. But yeah, give me a second here. I'm feeling a little bit, oof. This is tough stuff. I hate reading about violence as well. It's not nice. How's everybody doing? Press 1 if you're all right. Press 2 If you're not, press 3 if you're not sure. Turn the AC back on. I know, but it's so loud right here, and I get cold so easy. It's like on and off. Give me a moment. All right, I say Brady's doing good. That's good. Harvey Viola put 100. Nice. All right, let's turn it on. You're right. Ugh. Summer. There we go. That good background sound. Yeah, it's been milder, I have to say. I'm not. But I don't know, today was in the 90s. That's hot for Portland, but I don't know. I usually don't get affected by it. I could be just tired as well, you know. I think that's part of it. Mm. In his relationships with women, Dorner showed the all classic symptoms of a man who never had a useful role model. One ex-girlfriend, a black woman, called him severely emotionally and mentally disturbed. She went so far as to warn other would-be girlfriends about Dorner on a site called Don'tDateHimGirl.com. Dang. Oh my goodness. Don'tDateHimGirl.com. That sounds like a fun place. Just be careful, wrote the woman, because this guy is a police officer and he would probably think that he can get away with anything. Of note, she also claimed that Dorner hated himself for being black and wanted her to act more like a white woman. Dorner married a fellow police officer in 2007, but that marriage lasted less than 3 weeks, and it was an incident with a white female training officer on the LAPD, also in 2007, that cost him his job. Oh, dang. Okay, back on the page. Much as I did before I saw the light, Dorner insisted on viewing all of his troubles through a racial prism. Although the LAPD was subject to intrusive federal race and gender oversight during Dorner's tenure, the LAPD he saw was racist to the core. The sole intent of the white officers was to victimize minorities who are uneducated and unaware of criminal law, and civil rights, he wrote in his manifesto. As Dorner imagined, the department has not changed since the Bart and Rodney King days. It has gotten worse. The nation was doing no better than the department. Dorner shed a tear the night Obama was elected, and he bought the media line that Obama's critics attacked him only because he was black. You, by which Dorner meant Red State America, call Obama's supporters, whether black, brown, yellow, or white, leeches, FSA, welfare recipients, and N-word lovers. You say this openly without any discretion. This hateful mindlessness came to him courtesy of the mainstream media. Dorner cited people like MSNBC's Chris Matthews and Piers Morgan, then with CNN, for his political insights. Ugh. You know what, y'all? I think I'm going to have to stop. I don't think I can get through this chapter. I think I need to call it a night. Well, we made some progress. And you know what? We'll probably get through the rest of the reading in the next. Well, I think we'll definitely get through it in the next time. So maybe tomorrow night, if the Lord is willing. Oh, yeah, I can't keep reading. My eyes and my mind are too tired. I think I need to kind of call it an early night tonight and get some rest. It is a good read. It's been a challenging read. It's been an informative read. It's been a provocative read. So, yeah, thank you for suggesting it. I think it was you that suggested it in the first place. So, much appreciated. Thank you, Yoda. How's everybody else been reacting to it? Have you been enjoying it? Mm. Oh my. Yeah, I'm a mess. I'm tired. I don't know. I guess I was tired when I got started, but now I'm definitely feeling it. I know, Dijon Pa. I am delicate and it is summer. And I did do a lot today. I did do a lot, so I kind of do need to, yeah, take it easy. S.A. Brady says it's okay. He's kind of standard conservatism. Yeah, I would say that too. But it's interesting that he, as a black person, as a black man, I should say, is focusing on so heavily on like the issues in the black community and tying it to the anger and the like. And I don't think it's wrong. I mean, if you look at people who come from like single mother homes or like, who's come from products of divorce, there's a lot of scars they carry, and there's a lack of, you know, you just don't get the kind of positive outcomes, that you do when the family is a stable unit. So regardless of anything else, I mean, I don't think he's wrong about that. People naturally want to have an intact family with mother and father together guiding them. It's the ideal situation. Oh, Yoda is worried about Fred. Fred, are you still watching? Yoda's worried about you. He thinks you've been acting strangely. I don't know. I think, maybe he's just not at the keyboard, You came in, he hadn't been talking for a while. Like, there hadn't been many comments. I've been reading a while when you first showed up, so I think maybe he just didn't see you. Yeah, you can disagree with like somebody's politics, but still acknowledge that like there's truth. And what I appreciate about JLP is that he does so strongly talk about forgiveness and anger and like the corrosive nature of it, not only to the individual and spirit, but the impact it plays in society. Like, I know in my own life, I was angry for a time and it was destructive to me and destructive to everyone around me. So if I can see the truth about it in my own life, and I can see it in other people, it's always good to be reminded of it, that people are walking around in that spirit. But anyway, I've enjoyed reading what I did today. We heard about some different things and got some interesting analysis, and I'm looking forward to the conclusion of the book next time. So thank you all for showing up and being here with me, for your comments and for your dedication to this piece. And yeah, I'll see you soon, okay? Bye. Good night. Bye.